Okay, I'm going to say all that just one more time real quick. Hi, everyone. I'm Karen Ferris, your EVP from Rokai Society. And today I'm going to walk through the 4 bylaw changes that we have proposed, and I'll discuss the exact wording as well as the rationale for why we're making these changes. I think this presentation will take like 13, 14 minutes, and then I'm happy to answer any questions at the end so that I can just get through the material and then we can discuss if you have any concerns or issues. And Julie is our program manager in the office. She'll be monitoring the chat, and so she can also give me those questions at the end as well. So here I go. I'm going to share my screen, and then all of you will go away, and I'll just be talking at my computer. Okay.
It's great. So it really means a lot to really want to do. Not a lot of time to do it.
Okay, I think you can now see my screen, correct? Actually, I can see Julie. Perfect. I saw her head. Okay, so I've already announced what we're going to do today, and I'm just going to keep going. So here's the purpose of today's sessions. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to introduce you to the bylaw changes, explain the rationale, provide you the specific edits, and then answer any questions that you have.
Thank you.
So in summary, we have 4 proposed bylaw changes. They are focused on defining how we define attendance at our national convention, which is Article 4 changes. Changing from a written ballot, which was in olden times before the pandemic, which is in Article 5. We want to add communications as a standing committee to our organization. And so that's in 2 different articles, 6 and 7. And then updating language about our credentials committee, Article 11. And so when I'm saying article, what that's referring to is the bylaw changes that are on rokai.org. It's on the very first drop down, and you would go to see the bylaws as they currently are. And that link was on the previous slide. So anytime throughout this presentation that you see green highlight, that is new text that you're going to be voting on. The red text is what we are going to take out or take away because we're updating our language. Okay, so I'm going to get it started on the 4 changes. So the first one is defining attendance at the national convention. So this is the specific wording that you will be voting on. And what this says is that attendance at the convention will be defined by our executive council, and that we will advise all chapters and delegates about what that is. And the reason this is an important change is this. Historically, we had in-person meetings at the national convention at the APHA meeting, which for the past few decades has been every March. And so members had to send a person in, like physically send a person to the meeting to attend our convention. And there's where we did the business of the society. Of course, in March 2020, that changed. We just like put materials online in 2020. In 2021 and 2022, we had a virtual meeting. And our society decided to continue our national convention and the business meeting in a virtual manner. Number one, this saves costs to you as members and chapters that you do not have to send the delegate to the convention. And candidly, it saves the society quite a bit of money as well in terms of not having to host that meeting every year. Okay, so because we are now virtual, we need to, and you can't sign a piece of paper to sign in, which is what you used to do. We have to redefine attendance at the national convention. And so the first few years we did the national convention, we did not even take attendance about who was online because we just didn't have that capability when we first did it. And so your vote, maybe not you personally, but the vote of your delegate was your attendance. And what we're moving toward is your vote, as well as your attendance at our national convention in a few weeks will be considered your chapter's attendance. But what's important that you're voting on now is that attendance will be defined by the executive council, and we will advise you, your chapter, your delegate about what this definition is, at least 1 month in advance, at least. And so that's what that wording says.
White roses. to the tree
Okay.
would be
Let me just
off
take a
white
quick look and see if there's anything else I wanted to say there.
roses.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide.
Rose.
Okay, so the second bylaw change is also a factor or an issue from the pandemic as well.
It would be
And so what you can see here is that the election will be conducted as directed by the executive council. So again, historically at the national convention, we would actually have a written ballot, and delegates would have to like check off who they were voting for and attend that meeting and do the voting at the meeting. But because our meetings are now virtual, what we need to do is give the executive council the capability to say, you need to get the ballot done, national office, and you do it in the best way that you see fit. So today or in the next few weeks, you're going to see a survey like document come to you, and you're going to be asked to vote. But, you know, I can imagine in 10, 20 years, I don't know, we just click a button on some other device, who knows what it might be in 20 years. And so we don't even want to say it has to be a survey here. We want it to be open. And so the election will be conducted as directed by the executive council, and give all of our future ROCI members and national office that flexibility to implement voting in the best way that works for that current time. So that's why this wording doesn't even say electronic ballot. Okay, in my world, that's probably what it's going to be, but you never know in the future. Who knows?
good, yes.
And then the other point here is that we had said voting delegates in attendance and voting. We just didn't need that. We just needed to say voting delegates. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one.
Little wedding she planned. I know she's a
And
fun-
someone should probably mute themselves because we can hear what's going on at your house, I think. So you might just want to mute your audio. Okay, so the third bylaw change is adding communications as a standing committee. Oh, cute. Okay, so for the past 5, 6, 7 years, when a president came on board, a new president came to the society, they always, they appointed what was called a communications task force. And so in an organization like ROCI, you have what are called standing committees, and you can actually see those listed right here. The society shall have the following standing committees. And so what that means is these are committees that get the work of the society done. So we have a nominating committee that puts together our slate of candidates. We have a committee that works on who gets scholarships and fellowships, who gets the faculty advisor award. You can see the different standing committees that exist. Again, it's to get the work of the society accomplished. And then a president can put together what are called a task force, which is a 1-year naming of people to and a committee. It is a committee, but it's a 1-year appointment. They have a specific set of objectives that they need to achieve. And so what we've seen is that over the past 5, 6, 7 years, every president has had a communications task force. And because we are communicating with you virtually, there are so many opportunities to communicate with you in different ways. We think that it's important to transition our task force to a communication standing committee. And that's exactly what this language does. So in section 4, we have to say the national secretary will serve as the chair. And then that was Article 6, section 4. And then in Article 7, we need to add communications to our list. And then we're adding a whole new section, section 8, which says what the communications committee is, who is a member of it, and what their general responsibilities will be. And that's exactly what this paragraph says here. It will consist of up to 9 members. They will be appointed annually by the president. The secretary, the nationally elected secretary, will serve as chair. And then it talks about the different members that we will have. And then importantly, it also goes on to say, and these are the primary things that the communication committee will achieve for our society. So that's what bylaw change 3 is. Okay. And then the final bylaw change is again some language that's arising out of our pandemic era issues. And so historically, at our in-person national conventions, we would name what's called a credentials committee. And what this committee would do, number one, it was comprised of local ROCI members wherever the convention was held. And we would name those individuals, and they would be responsible for taking attendance, physically counting the ballots, going around, picking them up, counting them, and helping us manage some of those operations at the National Committee. Well, clearly, as we have moved our national convention online, we have to rethink what that credential committee is. And so as you can see here, the executive vice president, which at this time is me, or it says or designee. So let's say in future, we had several people working in the office. It might be the person that I name would oversee the execution and tabulation of the voting, and that I, for now, would submit the election results for verification to a credentials committee. And then what we're saying here is that the credentials committee will be comprised of the EVP and 2 national officers who are not on the ballot. So in real life terms, what that means is I will download the results, I will tabulate them, I will send the downloaded data and the tabulation to my 2 national officers so that they can review that. So then we have 3 sets of eyes reviewing the spreadsheet and the tabulation, and then the announcements that we can then say, here's the individuals who won the ballot. So that way we have a process where there's a check, for lack of a better term, on the balloting, the voting, and the counting. And I think that's really important. So you're almost finished. In summary, we had 4 proposed bylaw changes that I went through pretty quickly today. Attendance at the National Convention, and essentially the Executive Council would define that. Changing the election process, we're going to have the ballot as defined by the Executive Council, not a written document. And we didn't even say it would be electronic, remember? Because in future, I don't know what it might be. We want to be open. Importantly, we want to add communications as a standing committee because of so much work that they've helped us get done over the past few years, and the importance of our communications with chapters, with members, with our alumni, with everyone. And then number 4, updating our language about what the credentials committee is and who it's comprised of. So those are the things I covered today. So your next steps are this. So all of you should have submitted your voting delegate to the national office. We have that list now, and we're looking through it and just making sure everything's aligned, and I'll soon get that. And then the 2023 ballot will be emailed to delegates on March 3 at 9 a.m. So that's Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. The ballot will close March 6th at 11:59 Pacific time. Okay, so you really have 3, 4, 5, and 6 to vote. You're going to be voting on a couple of national officers, the bylaw changes, a new chapter. That's what everyone will vote on. And then people from certain regions will vote on their regional counselors. And so if you're in region 3E East, for example, you're going to have a tag. And if you're in Region 3E, you're going to go straight to that question that lets you look at the regional counselors that are running, or the individuals who are running for regional counselor. And then you would vote on that. So the ballot is open March 3 to 6. And that concludes my presentation. So I am going to stop sharing. I'm going to leave the recording going, because if you guys have some questions, someone else who watches this is going to have the same questions. And so I think it's important for us to go ahead and record the Q&A as well. But I am going to stop sharing now. Okay. All right. What questions do you have, if any? One thing that I didn't say, and I'll just say to everyone, the importance of the definition of attendance at the National Convention is this. Every chapter has to be in attendance every 3 years at the National Convention. So it's important that everyone knows what that means and that we agree on what that is. And so that first bylaw change is saying the Executive Council will define that, and they will let all the members and chapters know what that means. And this year it means voting and attending the meeting, and we have a means to determine who's attending the meetings. And candidly, for the foreseeable future, I would anticipate that is the definition, but we need to give the organization flexibility to define that differently in the future, if for whatever reason. And so that's why you see our bylaws written in a way that you want your organizational leadership to be able to define different kinds of procedures. And so that may feel a little loose, or I don't think it's vague. It just says, here's the process that it's going to be done. But what you don't want in your bylaws is everything defined, because then I have to come to you every 3 years to get them changed if we want to make a change. So that's why you're seeing that kind of wording. And I just wanted to clarify that for you. Okay, and Brittany says, thank you for a thorough review. You are very welcome. Very, very welcome. Anyone else have any questions? I'm just going to give you 3 or 4 more minutes to ask questions. You do not have to stay on if you are satisfied with what you heard and you understand what you heard, but I am happy to answer any questions that you have. And it's so funny, Julie sent me like 2 or 3 texts to tell me to record, and I just ignored them. So she finally had to tell me in person. Thank you, Julie. That's what you're here for. Keep me in line. Among many other things. I don't think Frances has any questions, but I'm not sure. I want to stay on and be respectful. So we're just going to stay on for 3 more minutes till 1:25, just in case someone else pops on. And Frances said, thanks, all is clear. All right, excellent, Frances. You are free to leave, but you are free to sit here and watch us. I appreciate you taking the time to come on and learn about the changes. Thank you. Bye. So let's stop the recording. I think we can stop the recording, right? Yes.